Thank you for coming. My name is Carrie Mayers. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Litchfield County. We're thrilled to be doing this debate here in Morris, and we're thrilled to be working with both the town committees, the Democratic Town Committee and the Republican Town Committee. So this is a joint effort of three bodies. And I want to thank you, the voters, for turning out, because this is so important that you hear your candidates and know why you're voting for them. A lot of people express ideas that municipal elections aren't very important. To me, they're really important. They're really the cornerstone of our democratic system. And it's the area where you, as a voter, as a citizen, can really create influence, whereas you're not going to do much in Washington, probably. So we have today here 4 timers who will be timing the questioners so that they don't go over their allotted time. We have ushers wandering around who will be collecting the questions for you. They bring the questions back to the question screeners who will get them into categories and then bring them up to the podium for our moderator. So our candidates are Kevin Curley and Thomas White. You all know them, I'm sure. So, and now our moderator is Bernie Harrington. He's from Goshen, and he is a former League of Women Voters president. And so we don't have microphones. This is just a recording, so everyone has to be quiet so you can hear the people speak. And I'll turn it over to Bernie now.
Thank you. Before we begin, and we don't have to stand if you don't want to, we're going to pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first question is probably an easy one. What positive things you can say about your opponent?
Well, I have not really gotten to know Mr. Curley over the years that he's been here, but I must say he has a lot of enthusiasm and energy, and I'm glad he's starting to get involved in the town, getting on the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's nice to see some involvement, and I hope that continues. Myself, I volunteered for years on town committees, including the Hampton Lake Authority, the Dam Lake Protective Association, Sandy Beach Commission, Library Board of Directors, Reading Room, all those. And when you volunteer like that, you learn how town government actually works, and it gives you the experience that you need to do a job such as the first selectman's job.
Kevin?
One of the things that I respect and admire about Mr. White is I believe that he loves his town, like most of us do. For many years he's dedicated himself to volunteering to various positions, as he mentioned. He's shown a commitment, an investment with his family, putting his children in the school system. It's that kind of investment to the community that helps build our community.
Now you each have 1 minute to either respond or elaborate on what you just said, or you can skip it.
I'll skip.
Yeah, I'll skip as well.
Thank you. Okay. Another question. This starts with Kevin. How will you work to bring cell phone service to West Morris?
Okay, so most of you folks know, some of you don't, I happen to live in West Morris, and one of the major concerns for residents in that area is that we do not have reliable cell phone service. There's spotty service at times. There's multiple concerns to that. It's a quality of life. We all have cell phones. Many people have gotten rid of their landlines. And it's an emergency issue as well. Sometimes the 911 works, but at the same time, a lot of elderly people or young children would first call their family members. And not having cell phone service is a detriment. It also is something that can encourage investment in our community. Somebody wants to buy a home, somebody wants to build a home. A developer wants to develop an area responsibly with a number of homes. It's 2019, and it's about time that we, as a town, work to invest in our people by allowing a cell phone tower to be created in that area. I would try to find a cell phone contractor that would want to use the transfer station where we could possibly receive income. If that's not possible, I would lead the town resources to be used to connect a private property owner with the cell phone contractors to create a cell phone opportunity, period. Regardless of whether our town receives money, at this point, we just need to do the service for our residents, and it costs the town nothing.
Okay, as everyone probably realizes, there was an option on the property at the landfill for a cell tower. The option was brought to the town meeting, and the people at the meeting decided they did not want to continue with that option for a cell tower. And currently, there are no developers or carriers interested in putting cell service into the Lakeside or Westmore section of the town. There is a private property owner that has an option on his property, and there are no carriers interested in putting up a cell tower there. I would propose that we work with Northwest Connect to bring fiber optic service to the northwest corner. Bring the fiber optic into northwest corner, you get the cell service that you are looking for, almost seamless cell service. You'd also get internet, high-speed internet. And when you have that connection for internet, you could have businesses grow and stay right here in Morris instead of people leaving to bring their job elsewhere. The business would stay right here in Morris. Thank you.
Yeah, so one of my concerns about what Mr. Wyke said was we had a town referendum in which the town-wide body decided that they did want a cell phone tower at the transfer station. That was subsequently overturned with a town meeting. As far as democratic process, whether it's that or something else, I don't believe that having a town meeting to overturn a referendum is the most democratic way of making a decision.
Well, it's interesting. I'll go back to what I just previously said. There are no carriers interested in providing service to a small area like we have in West Morris. The transfer station is still there. The property is still there. No one is coming to the town at all. In fact, they're not going to that parcel of land near the transfer station on private property to put up a cell tower either. Again, the technology is changing. We have to change with the times. Support the new technology. Let's get seamless cell service in our northwest corner.
I think that when we decided to have a town meeting to vote down a town referendum, we probably sent a message to the cell phone contractors that we are closed for business. Now, I can't dispute, I didn't communicate with the cell phone contractors, and I don't think any of us necessarily have that information, but I'm pretty sure that when you vote down the space in a small town meeting, you send a message to those developers that we're not interested.
Okay, any more questions? Anyone? Right. Another question. What is the most effective way of keeping the residents of the town informed, either through social media, websites? What ways would you improve or change the way people are informed in the town today?
Well, I think social media has its place to keep people informed, but not everyone is on social media. Not everyone actually uses the internet either. We just got onto a new website, a new platform, Civic Lift. It's a wonderful website, very easy to use. We're going to populate that website with as much information for the townspeople as we possibly can. But you can't stand on that alone. Yes, use social media, use our website, but you have to rely on radio and newspaper and newsletters and the sign in the center of town. That's the way you get the word out to the people.
So I think there's a multifaceted approach. The internet's part of it, social media is part of it. I'll give Mr. Wyke his due, keeping that board up there has been very helpful. On planning and zoning, I've advocated that both our town hall and our fire department and our school are capable of having a digital board. That's been very effective in some other towns. And if we have the resources to do that, a lot more information can be fed through that if we decide to do that. On the topic of social media, one of the first things I would do as first selectman is I would relinquish control of our social media page to the town clerk's office. My goal in there would be to separate the politics of the Board of Selectmen from our social media platform, because as people know, that has been a challenge in civil discourse in the past few years in our town. And I'd love to see the town clerk's office, because I think we can all agree that whether it was Ann or Carolyn or Lori and Sue, our town clerk's office has always operated as a non-political and welcoming place. And this would be a place where social media, when somebody goes on it, they don't believe that it's the selectman that they have a gripe with who's they're receiving information back and forth from. They're going to expect that it's Lori that they're communicating with, or Sue. And I think that that could help alleviate some of the tensions in town and create a more respectful environment for communicating.
Yeah, it's interesting to call an office non-political. I don't think you can really do that. It depends on who's in that office, I would assume. If you look back on the Town of Morris Facebook page and look back on all the postings on there, you'll see there are no political postings. You've got lost dogs, you got road closed, you got road work being done. All these notices getting out to the people. It's not a political page. And I think that's the way it should remain. The problem is going with the town clerk's office. What happens when you have to close the road at 11 o'clock at night? Are you going to call up Lori to post that for you? Are you going to call up Sue to post that for you? A lost dog at 2 in the morning. Who's going to do that for you? I don't think the town clerk's office is the place to have that done.
So to rebut, that information is simply untrue. The town social media page has shared political articles. It's controlled by 2 selectmen right now, not all 3. So it is political, because we will have 3 selectmen and they will be from different parties. So there is no way for the selectmen to share this. And I disagree with the town clerk's office being political. I've lived here for 8 years, and it's been nothing but non-political and welcoming in there.
And I would respectfully disagree. I've lived here for 54 years, and I have seen offices in this town hall become political, and that's not the place to put the social media. I believe we've done a great job informing the people with our Facebook page, and it's been very effective.
Okay, another question. If elected or continued in office, how would you ease the tax burden of individual property owners in this town?
Is that for me?
Yep.
I think fiscal responsibility, and that's what we've been doing for the past 4 years. Our administration has received a $400,000 small cities grant. Local people in our town have used that grant to improve their homes, to put on a roof, septic system, whatever it may be. I think there was about 7 families that used that grant, totaling $250,000 worth of improvements to their properties. We've also received a steep grant for the firehouse renovation. We have a $150,000 steep grant for the Smoky Hollow Bridge, which Karen Paradis got back in 2011. We're using that grant to help pay for the Smoky Hollow Bridge. Also, my involvement with the Smoky Hollow project has saved the town $133,000. If you're not there to do the job, and you don't go after the money that you need to get, you're not going to save the money for the townspeople.
We are at a critical juncture with our taxes, and they need to be reduced. They need to be reduced for a few reasons. One, we're starting to discourage our fixed income retirees from staying in town and not fleeing to Florida, leaving more empty homes. We're discouraging young families who are looking at what the monthly bill will be on their mortgage when they pay each month, when they decide if they're going to build a home or purchase a home in this town. I think one of the first things we need to do is we need to reduce our taxes over the next 2 to 4 years to encourage interest in our community. Our municipal budget has increased 24.2% in the past 4 fiscal years. That's simply unsustainable. If that was a home that was being run that way, it wouldn't last in its budget very long whatsoever. So, if we want to encourage businesses to build a building, if we want to encourage families to purchase a home, retirees to stay here another 5 years before they may decide to go somewhere else, we have to lower the cost of living in this town. And some tough decisions are going to have to be made on what we purchase and how we spend our money. And I think a more balanced approach to our budget process and our spending and the projects that we pursue is going to be necessary to lower this tax rate.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned lowering the mill rate. He has proposed lowering our mill rate by 4 mills over 2 years. That is $1.4 million you'd have to take out of our town budget. And it would come from the town budget, not the school budget. So I would love to hear which departments we would close to lower our mill rate by 4 mills and reduce $1.4 million. Could be the fire company, the beach and rec commission, the library, the treasurer, the assessor, the transfer station, the senior center, and the town clerk. That's only $865,000. Where are you going to get the rest of it? I'd like to hear that answer.
So, I don't plan on closing any departments. I plan on spending more responsibly and creating interest and generating more tax revenue in the same time. So anyways, as far as areas to cut, salary is going to have to be cut, health benefits, and that would be starting at my position myself. I plan on reducing the first selectman's position by 40%. I plan on looking at public works to manage their budget more responsibly.
That's okay. That's good, okay. In the next 5 years, or even 3 years, what capital projects do you see as a need for in Forest? And how are you gonna pay for them?
So one of our largest capital projects that we see coming is a new fire engine, as I've heard. And we need to start putting money away. We've decided on doing a lot of different projects, and some of them we had grant money and some it was time for. We purchased a property just north of this building. I would have reconsidered something like that when money needed to be put into the purchase for a future fire truck. Some different decisions are going to have to be made, and they're going to be small. My understanding in the past, money had typically been put away yearly by the Board of Finance for these capital non-reoccurring projects. Tough decisions are going to have to be made. Whether it's increasing a treasurer's or a tax collector's salary, whether it's increasing the first selectman's salary, that money is going to add up. And I think a better place for it was putting into capital. Once again, the decision over here to purchase this property, when we're not capable of putting a lot of money away for these capital non-reoccurring debts or budgetary situations, we have to decide to plan better. We can't do it all, and we need a more balanced approach to our spending and saving.
Well, it's interesting, the purchase of the property next door was brought to a town meeting where the people who vote in this town voted to purchase that property. He talks about reducing our mill rate and taking out $1.4 million. How are you going to fund capital non-recurring when you're cutting our budget by $1.4 million? That's over a third of the municipal budget right now. You're talking about slashing departments severely. It would be a financial disaster for our town. I'd say we need to fund our capital non-recurring better. We need to put more into it over the years. We have a culvert on Sandy and East Shore Road that has to get replaced. That's probably $400,000 to $600,000. We have a wall at the transfer station that needs to be replaced. That's a couple $100,000 right there. Yes, engine 5 over at the firehouse. That's probably going to be $700,000. You need a plan, you need a 10 to 15-year plan, and that's what we have. We have it in place, we're putting the money away for these projects, and that's good fiscal responsibility.
Yeah, our municipal budget's increased 24% in 4 years, and the vast majority, that significant majority, has gone to now projects, not to putting away for capital, non-reoccurring projects in 10 to 15 years from now. So, to be clear about my plan on lowering taxes, my plan is a gradual plan within the 2 years. It's not a drop-off immediately. And to be very clear, money that we decrease on our education budget and education surpluses would be going back to the town residents.
Well, it's interesting, that money from the education budget, that's not written in stone. That could change in a matter of 2 months with a family of 5 moving into our town, a family of 6 moving out of Goshen, or a family of 4 moving out of Warren. That could change that dramatically. So you're talking $366,000 in the next 2 years, reduction maybe from Region 6. That doesn't add up to $1.4 million. I think in your math on how much our budget has gone up over the last 4 years, it's only 16%, not 24%. You realize we have to make up for over $500,000 loss in educational cost sharing money from the state. And those came from cuts to our town budget. We're trying to make fiscal responsible ideas here, make them work for our town.
Our share of the Region 6 education budget went down $500,000 in the same time we lost the $500,000 from the state. So our share decreased by the same amount of money in which we lost in grants. So I don't really see that. We got that money back, and that money did not go back to the taxpayers when our education budget. Some of it did, and some was spent on current projects.
If either of you will be the next first selectman, is it a full-time or a part-time job, and what do you consider the main responsibilities as first selectman?
Well, in my 4 years as first selectman here in the town of Morris, it is a full-time job. I regularly put in at least 44 hours a week on the clock. That doesn't count all the night meetings, the weekend phone calls, the weekend meetings. You need to be available to do what is best for the town. You need to be very involved in this position. If you're not here, you can't make the decisions that need to be made for our town. If it's going to be a part-time position, you're not going to see the cost savings at Smoky Hollow Bridge for $133,000. You're not going to be over at the firehouse to make sure that stays on budget. You need to be doing the job you are elected to do, you are hired to do. The staff at our town hall has their own work to do. They shouldn't be doing the first selectman's work. The first selectman should be doing that work himself or herself. Thank you.
So I see the first selectman's position as a manager of people, and out of respect for public works and for the fire department, I think that there's a lot of people that can oversee the projects that they've been tasked with, while checking in with them and having standing meetings about where the project is at or what needs to be included or adjusted. That can happen, but the first selectman is not the public works director, and they are also not the president of the fire company. And so I think it's a dedicated position, and honestly I would probably end up working full-time hours myself, but I don't think it actually demands full-time hours. I think if you look at the totality of a year, I think that the average work week would be less than 37.5 hours. But more important to this conversation is the question of how the position went from a $40,000 a year cost to our town to a $100,000 a year cost to our town. I'm a balanced middle of the road person, and it went from a position where simply somebody got a salary to now a complete full package. It wasn't added just health benefits and then maybe balance off by not having salary increases. It went the whole gamut, okay? I believe that I can be a dedicated servant to this town, trust and respect the people that I hired or were hired to do these jobs and manage them appropriately with not being everywhere at every time. Because once again, we hired these people to be representatives of our town because they are qualified, hard workers. It should be in their hands.
Well, perhaps someone with a business degree and many years of experience managing personnel would be able to reduce the hours, but Kevin has none of that. He's telling us that he's going to put the responsibilities of the first selectman's office onto volunteers, like the fire department. They're all volunteer over there. They're not getting paid. Why should they do your work? You have to go to meetings at Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, the Council of Small Towns, Northwest Council of Governments. You meet with Chris Leone at Region 6 on a monthly basis with the other two first selectmen from Warren and Goshen and now Litchfield. DOT meetings down at the bridge. You have to be there. Department of Public Health, you're meeting with them over every couple weeks. The DEP about the health and safety on Bantam Lake. You need to be involved. You need to do the job. You can't push it off on everybody else.
Yeah, I'm personally confused because I just got told that meetings weren't on the clock, and now meetings are on the clock. To be very clear, I don't care whether the town calls it a full-time or part-time job. I think it should be paid at a more balanced rate for our taxpayers. At the end of the day, when your taxes go up, and the three people standing or sitting behind the table get their salaries increased to cover the taxes that they laid upon you, that's unfair. So I'm ready and I'm excited to do a good job, be at these meetings and be dedicated, but get paid a more reasonable salary.
Okay. Another question. What are your plans to eradicate the weeds in Bantam Lake?
Is that for me or for Kevin?
Well, I think it's you.
I think we need to continue to work with the Bantam Lake Protective Association. I was on the board of directors there some years ago. I was on the Bantam Lake Authority for about 30 years. Continue to work with Bantam Lake Protective, the coalition, which is made up of the Town of Morris, White Memorial, and Bantam Lake Protective, to fund the maintenance of the lake, which it is right now. We also need to bring Litchfield into this mix. They were part of the coalition years ago. They did step back from it over probably 8, 9 years ago. They need to be part of it. They need to help fund what we're doing at Bantam Lake. And I've reached out to the hopefully future leaders in Litchfield. I sat down and I met with a group of Litchfield residents. We talked about the problems of Bantam Lake. We need to work together as a region. It's a regional asset. It's the largest natural lake in the state of Connecticut. It's a heritage lake. It's a beautiful resource for all of us. So we all need to be involved in making it happen. I've also reached out to the DEP commissioner. I said, what's the state going to do to help us with this lake? We need more money. We need more resources. So please, what are you going to do to help us? And also about safety on Bantam Lake. We've had 2 severe accidents on the lake in the past year. What can the DEP do to help improve safety there? Awesome. Thank you.
So before I forget to mention, I don't believe the Bantam Lake Authority, when was the last time they met? I don't believe they met in I don't want to be incorrect, but I think it's a couple of years or a few years now. So it would be great to put the Bantam Lake Authority together again. Clearly, there are now 3 large participants in Bantam Lake: Morris, Litchfield, and now the state of Connecticut. My understanding of the number is it's $25,000 a year that we pay towards the lake. Bantam Lake residents are upset, rightfully so. They feel that they are one of our larger tax bases. They're being taxed at a greater rate. And no, I'm at the 2 minutes, right?
This is a rebuttal. No, this was his opening too. It's just.
Oh, yeah, no worries, that's okay. And I believe that what's been expressed to me from Bantam Lake residents is we pay higher taxes, and we feel like we get $25,000 back for it, and they don't feel comfortable. So the state and Litchfield need to become equal participants. Simply having meetings with them, and not to disrespect your work, Mr. White, but that hasn't been solved in the past 4 years. And they need to come to the table, especially Litchfield.
I think it's very important that you sit down and actually have meetings with people you're asking money from. It goes a long ways in order to get that money. That's why I've sat down and met with the Litchfield residents, and one of the candidates running for first selectman in Litchfield. There's a commitment there now. We haven't seen that in 16 years from Litchfield. There's a commitment that they will come in and be a partner with the town of Morris, with the Band Lake Protective Association, and White Memorial. And I think that's a very good start to seeing a little more work being done for our lake.
That's a verbal commitment from you. I haven't yet, as a resident, seen that from Litchfield or the state of Connecticut. So I wasn't in the meetings, but we haven't actually been committed to.
Okay, another question. As you see the school districts under Region 6 in both Morris and Goshen and Warren merging, what do you see as the advantages, disadvantages of doing that? And what about the advantages and disadvantages of uniting the town more in terms of their public works and other services they might be able to share?
Yes. So I'm a transplant here, and I don't have some town older concerns about Litchfield and Morris combining school districts like some residents may have. There are disadvantages and there are advantages, but this is going to be part of a negotiation process that's going to eventually have to happen. At this point, it's not sustainable financially to have two secondary education facilities essentially across the street from each other. Our per pupil cost for Region 6, I believe, is about $24,000 right now. It's about $10,000 over the state average. Some of the tough negotiations are going to have to be what representation do we have at Board of Education? It's going to be a lot of moving parts to this between the school districts. There's going to be a lot of questions about which school town keeps its elementary school. I will be fighting for James Morris Elementary School to maintain. I do not want to redistrict our elementary schools, but I do believe that we have both a financial and an educational duty to look into and actually make moving works of combining Litchfield's and our Region 6 secondary education programs. There will be more resources for our children, and at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. As for concerns about Litchfield's strength, once the negotiations are settled and whether they have a larger say, I think as we've seen in a regional school district, once we separate an individual town out into multiple towns, we find that there's actually a pretty balanced approach to people making decisions.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to have been brought up through the Region 6 schools. So as well, my father didn't quite do that. He graduated 12th grade across the street at James Morris School. We have an excellent relationship with Chris Leone, the superintendent of Region 6, and also now superintendent at Litchfield Schools. He's very accessible, he's very transparent. We have not seen that in a number of years with the superintendent at Wamogo. We also have a very good Board of Education here in Region 6. They work well together, they're making great decisions, they're investing into our schools. I think we're moving in the right direction. Chris Leone is the person to help bring our two school districts together. He has the enthusiasm, he has the time, he puts it all into that. I think we support our superintendent, we're moving in the right direction. You gotta start slowly, you don't want to jump in, because again, this has been going on since I think about 1954. So let's work together, let's progress. It's going to be better for our children in the long run, and better for us as a community.
I definitely share Tom's admiration for the job Chris has done. That can't be understated. We also need to be careful too, because the ebbs and flows of this. There's been times where we were at the negotiation table and wanted to join, and then there was times where Litchfield doesn't. And there seems to be an interest now in Litchfield, and we're still within that window of their interest in joining school districts. And we need to take advantage of that while we have the opportunity before that door closes on us for another period of time. We can't sustain for $24,000 per student yearly.
And yes, Chris Leone, I've been fortunate enough to meet with him quite often, as I said, as first selectman with the other first selectmen of Warren and Goshen, and also Litchfield now at our last meeting. We talked about the future of the two systems, and we'll work in that direction, and we're off to a great start right now.
And the other part of that question was what services in terms of personnel and so forth that you would share between Morris, Goshen, and Warren? As you seem to be sharing our educational needs in Region 6 as a unit, can we share government services through the three towns and work together? And do you see any that you can, or you don't think it can be done?
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to do 30 seconds?
No,
Is it the
let's
same
start-
question?
Let's
No
start
question.
another 2 minutes.
Another 2 minutes.
Sure, sounds good. So I've lived in a few different areas in the country. I lived for a couple years out in California, and they run a county system. Many places across our country have robust county governments in which first responder services, public works, social services get run out of a county government system. It's very difficult in here in Connecticut because of 189, 160, I'll get just added 20. Everybody reinvents the wheel for themselves. I would be very excited. I think it's a first step in the educational department to start sharing resources. I do think that the two could eventually be hand in hand. If the redistricting of the schools included Litchfield and Morris and Warren and Goshen, I do think that there's then opportunities for the municipalities to look into how public works can be shared as well. I do believe that there's a potential for other positions within, say, a tax collector office. There's no reason why eventually a tax collector can't work independently on the source of the four towns. So.
well, I gotta say, we don't limit our sharing just to the other two towns in our district currently. We are part of the Northwest Connecticut Council of Governments. That's 21 towns in Northwest Connecticut. And we work cooperatively sharing services already, whether it be IT. You could also get engineering costs reduced and work with an engineer that has been hired by the Council of Governments. Currently, we do share public works equipment and personnel with our area towns, including Litchfield. We continue to do that. It's a wonderful opportunity. They have a grader that we don't have. They come and grade our roads. They need a person over there. We send a person over there. It's been really good. But we also share beach and recreation activities with the town of Warren and Goshen. We're sharing the activities plus sporting activities with our beach and rec department. Also, our senior trips are very active with Warren and Morris. With that and with the Council of Governments, there's really no limit of what we can do as far as reducing the costs, working together as a region, working together against some legislation from Hartford that may negatively impact our towns. And that's what we do right now, and we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, all those areas of sharing are very helpful. A number of them, though, are the lesser costs. Whether you look through a municipal budget or an education budget, I think we all know that the largest portion tends to be employees. So I think as far as a long-term goal that we'd be speaking of, I do believe if we're looking at cost-effective and productivity, employee sharing would definitely be something to work towards.
One more?
Yeah, you get one.
Yeah, and as far as sharing with our school district too and the other two towns, we're looking to talk with Region 6 this winter and Warren and Goshen, possibly Washington and Litchfield about working together to lower our health insurance costs. The larger pool you have, they'll help lower the costs for the towns and hopefully better benefits for the employees.
If in fact you actually got a budget surplus, how would you use it?
Budget surplus, we get a budget surplus every year. The past couple of years, we worked with a tighter budget. We haven't used our fund balance, which is the balance of money we keep on hand. So our budgets have gotten very tight, and they should go back into hopefully lowering the mill rate, and also should go back into the fund balance. We need to maintain a good, healthy fund balance so we can pay our bills on a weekly basis. When the bill comes due from Region 6 for close to $1 million, you need to have that money in the bank waiting for it.
I'd return it to the people, or we would put it into a capital non-recurring project. One of the issues I've had with surpluses, and many residents have, is they've seen their tax rate grow. They've seen the budget grow, and when all of a sudden they read about a surplus, they're wondering, well, why did you tax me in the first place for the money you ended up having? And then second, why can't you give this money back to me? That money can belong better in someone's bank account. If we want to encourage people to remain in our town, we want to encourage people to invest in our town, we have to make smarter decisions. So there's a balanced effect to that. If we have a lower mill rate and we have a surplus, it probably doesn't go back to the people. It goes into a capital project, or it goes into our savings account.
Well, the surpluses that we've had in the past couple of years have been fairly small because we do have a tight budget. When you have a tight budget, that means you're not overtaxing the people in your town. You're taxing it correctly. So when you work with the Board of Finance and you work with all of your department heads and commissions and create a good, solid budget, it'll be very tight. Anything that comes back definitely should be reinvested into the town. You can't write refund checks to every person in this town when you have a surplus. You just can't do that. That's not the way government works. That's not the way municipal finance works. Reinvest into the town, or hopefully lower your mill rate a little bit. That's what we've done 3 out of the last 4 years. Our mill rate has gone down.
Yeah, the last 4 years we've averaged a mill rate of 27.4. The previous 4 years we averaged a mill rate of 23.9. So while our mill rate came down slightly, the majority of that mill rate reduction was because our educational share of Region 6 reduced. And once again, not all of that money that our share of Region 6 reductions went back to lowering our mill rate. Some of that money was used to increase our municipal budget.
Well, since 2014, our Region 6 budget has actually grown by $17,000. And the aid from the state has actually gone down $554,000. So you have to make up that money someplace else. When the state aid disappears, it's going to cost you a little more in your mill rate. So when you're saying how this school assessment has gone down or up, it's gone up $17,000 since 2014.
Most of the towns in the Northwest are experiencing an aging population and an inability to attract young people. What concrete steps would you take, such as maybe reducing the lot sizes for a building, or anything else you can think of that might bring back more young people and make them stay here?
Well, I think we're at a good point to start making discussions on what we want to do for the next 10 years. The Planning and Zoning Commission is currently working on their plan of conservation and development. This is a plan that kind of lays out where they want to see the town go in the next 10 years. Mr. Curley's on that commission. I believe people need to pay attention at this point. Where do you want your town to be? I love the rural atmosphere we have in this town. I can do without some of the services just so I can live here with a little bit of elbow room. But in order to attract younger people, perhaps we need like a fiber optic service throughout the town where they could actually work from home. They don't have to travel to Hartford to work. They can do their business right here in Morris. And I think that's what we need to aim for.
So I am on planning and zoning, and we are currently working on POCAD, the Planning of Conservation Development. I have been a champion for responsible development since I've been on planning and zoning. I do believe that there's areas of town that we could reduce lot size as an opportunity to encourage families who might want a smaller lot. There are a lot of people who, maybe unlike most of us, like a bigger lot. But there's a number of other areas. First, I think to encourage investment, encourage a family to purchase a home, to build a home, we have to make it financially feasible. Where our taxes have gone per month is not at a place that's encouraging families at the moment. The second aspect to this is I'd like to create a tax incentive plan for home and for business building. There'd be a lot of negotiation, but I'd like to create a 3-year plan where it wouldn't be till the 4th year to a new build owner pays complete on their taxes. At the onset, they're paying on the land. And eventually, 4 years, if we can encourage them to buy a lot and build a building, to start a business, to purchase, to build a home, after a number of years, we would be receiving a full investment in that tax, from taxes on that property.
Well, I don't think you really should just target young families and encourage small lot sizes. I don't think people live here to live next door to each other in a 1/4-acre lot. Some of us do, depending on what district you're in right now, but most of us don't. We like our room, we like the character we have here in Morris, and we want to continue that. Yes, we need young families, but don't just cater towards young families because, as we know, as Mr. Curley mentioned, it costs about $24,000 a year to educate a child here in Region 6. What are you going to get off a 1/4-acre lot with a house on it? You might get $4,000 or $5,000, maybe. So a family of 4 moves in, you have 2 children, that's $50,000 more a year in our assessment to Region 6. It's going to be a long payoff. I encourage everyone to move to Morris. Enjoy what we have, be a volunteer, whether you have children, whether you're old.
So there's about 154 children in James Morris, my children included. 10 years ago, there were 252. I have to imagine that when there were 252, our cost was not $24,000 per pupil or higher. So it's not a linear line. Our classrooms are empty and they can grow a little bigger. 50 extra students is not going to demand a substantial increase in educators, which is the primary cost of Region 6.
Well, 50 extra students would definitely increase our assessment to Region 6. And if you're trying to lower our mill rate, you're going in the wrong direction.
Sure. We can't close our town to young people, to young families and children. That's the fiber of our community. So I do think that, and to be clear, we are also considering redistricting options. So there's a number of moving parts in this, but at the end of the day, we have a declining enrollment and it needs to be fixed.
Okay. A simple question. So what are your plans for the Munson house? Did I said it right?
Yes.
Next door. Oh.
Plans for the Munson house, as we talked about when we had the town meeting to purchase that house, there's a number of options. Right now, we have a first responder service in Morris. The people actually stay in their homes. When a call goes off, they leave their homes with a bag for EMS service, and they respond directly to the location wherever the person may be hurt or ill. Perhaps that would be a good place to put up a first responder building, a place to house the vehicle for them, a place for them to be able to sleep at night when they're on call. That's one of the options. Another one would be more parking. When we have events over here at James Morris School and an event here at the town hall, there's very little safe parking to be had in this area. You could turn that lot, at least temporarily, into a parking area until you decide to build upon it. Again, I mentioned in the past, the septic service for this building isn't around here. It's way over next to the solar field behind James Morris School. We may not have access to that area in the future. We need to plan for the future. Perhaps that area could be used for our septic system to the town hall, additional well, because the well service isn't the best in this area. So those are just some ideas that we have for that property.
Yeah, so my understanding from the property is a well would be very difficult because of ledge. I would advocate immediately for the demolishing of the building, because at this point, it shouldn't cost us anything. We've already made the purchase on it. So there's a few options here. One is that it gets demolished, and eventually, if Town Hall needs to be expanded, Town Hall gets expanded this way, and it ends up being a parking lot. The Morris Fire Company has addressed the possibility, if there's ever a desire to do an ambulance service, if an ambulance service is separated for some reason, and they're independent organizations, then that's an opportunity for it as well.
Yeah, I think we both agree on the possible future uses of that property. It's the only property adjacent to this town hall that we could actually obtain. And other than the church, which I don't think, hopefully will ever go out of business.
Question, I'm not even sure. Are you in support of the 490 Act? Will someone please explain what it is? I don't know.
Who's first on this, me or?
Huh?
Is that my question?
Yeah.
490 Act, it's a way of putting farmland and helping preserve farmland. It taxes, it assesses the farmland at a lower rate. It allows these farmers who, many of them don't make a lot of money off their property, but it allows them to hold on to that property, large amounts of property, at a lower tax rate, and it saves them on their expenses.
Yeah, if I'm not correct, I believe there's other mechanisms right now for diminishing the taxes on farmers. So I have no problem with supporting our farm community with reduced taxes.
Do you both agree in what is a farm in terms of qualifying for these special taxes? How do you define what a farm is? I know that in Goshen, when years ago there were 20, now there's about 5.
Depends what type of farm you're talking about. There are produce farms, there are beef farms, dairy, I mean, you name it. Some have just poultry. It depends on what the assessor determines what a farm is, and whether or not they're eligible to receive the 490 exemption or tax rate.
It's up to the assessor to determine based on local or state law?
Local.
Any questions?
Yeah, so our planning and zoning regulations have some details about what is a farm and what qualifies as a farm and what does not. So clearly that's a conversation for I believe it would be our ordinance committee if it were to be evolving on taxes. So it's a conversation to be had.
There have been several questions about how you as first selectman would help to unify this town and provide more transparency on the way the government and its operations are. And how would you do that? So, yeah.
So one of the first things I would do is there's been issues with our Board of Selectmen meetings, and there's been concerns that the public doesn't feel like they have a voice. In the last 21 months, only 35% of our Board of Selectmen meetings have allowed for public comment. You can go back through the minutes and the agendas. What I would like to do is I would like to record all of our Board of Selectmen meetings and town meetings like tonight's debate is and post them on YouTube within a day of the meeting. It costs our town nothing. It gets more people involved and interested in what's going on in their town. Whether it's the nurse who's working that shift, or it's the person who came home from work who simply wants to have dinner with their family. This is an opportunity for us to be upfront and on display for all residents. Yeah.
Well, I think we're moving in a good direction with our new website. It's totally different from what we had before. It's much more user-friendly. We can load many more documents and services on there. In fact, we already started with the permit system for building permits. That is on the website. You just click a button, you fill out your permit, you can send it to the building inspector. That's just one of the features. We need to probably, as he's talking about video meetings, we've done that in the past. It was a little tough to get it done. So with this new website, you'll be able to go to the board or commission that you want to read about or look at. And the agenda button will be there. You can view the agenda. The minutes button will be there. You can look at the minutes of that meeting. And the video button will be there, where you can see the video of that meeting if it was recorded. Moving forward, I think we should record as many meetings as we can, post them on the website. That way our snowbirds, when they're down in Florida, they can click onto the computer, see what's happening in Morris, keep them informed. And that's one step that we can make that happen.
There have been videos that were recorded of Board of Selectmen meetings, and then it stopped. So I'm not really sure. I personally don't think it's difficult. It's simply, the technology is there, there's a camera right there, and you press publish onto YouTube, and or you post it on the website, and you walk away from the computer for 10 minutes, and it's there. I also don't, as a resident, I don't understand why 2/3 of our Board of Selectmen meetings in the past 21 months have not allowed for public comment.
Well, when you talk about public comment, it is just that, and you need to be very careful because of the Freedom of Information Act. When the public comes to speak at a meeting, it is for them to comment. It's not for conversation, because then you could get into a violation with the Freedom of Information Act. You don't want that to happen. I disagree with his, 35% figure. I think that's wrong. All of our regular meetings, we add public comment if it's not already on the agenda. Special meetings, we've been told to be a bit leery about public comment because of the nature of the special meeting. We've been adding it for agenda items only at special meetings, per the FOI Act, Freedom of Information Act.
In this past 21 months, we went 7 calendar months without a Board of Selectmen meeting allowing for public comment. So I do believe that the process that's been occurring is regular meetings have been scheduled and then canceled and rescheduled as special meetings, which then have not allowed for public comment or public comment on non-agenda items.
That would be agenda items only, because we don't want to violate the Freedom of Information Act. And yes, there's been instances here where our schedules don't always work together. We have 3 people that have to be at that meeting. And we try to work with each of the selectmen to be there, whether it's Erica or Vinny. We'll give Vinny a call. Can you make this meeting at 4:30? No, I can't. Okay, how about 6? I can be there. That's how we do it. We work together.
Well, thank you guys tonight. It was very good of you to appear and to give your opinions on the problems and aspirations of Morris. And now for the last 2 minutes, I'd like to see you summarize what you think you can do for this town over the next period of your office. I believe we begin with 7.
Is this the closing statement or just the...
Closing statement, yeah.
Well, first I want to thank Kerry Mayers and Bernie Harrington and everyone for the Litchfield League of Women Voters for putting this on for us. This has been really cool. As a resident, I hope that everyone had an opportunity to hear more information about us. Thank you for allowing me to share my vision of lower taxes, more transparency, and cooperative governing. I look forward to taking the initiatives that I've shared with you. They're on my website, curlyformorris.com. I've shared with them door to door, and I talked about them some tonight, and putting them together in a solid, clear action plan. There's no gimmicks, there's no vagueness. And once again, there's a balance and a cooperative way to coming to agreements on a number of these issues. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank everyone for coming out tonight to be part of this debate. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for moderating, and to Kevin Curley for accepting our offer to debate tonight. Thank you to my friend and running mate, Erica, for agreeing to go for another term and working together and working so hard as a member of the Board of Selectmen. We make a great team. Thank you to my wife Lisa and my 3 daughters for allowing me to put the time into this campaign and into this job, 24/7. Please come out and vote November 5th for myself, Erica, and the entire Row B. Vote for us. A vote for us is for proven leadership, fiscal responsibility, protecting our natural resources, and providing a good quality and affordable education for our children. Thank you very much.